Item number 2 on the agenda is to seat alternates. They're not required. I thank them both for attending, but they're not required this evening. Before I get to hearing the residents, what we're going to do here after this, after the item number 5 is a public hearing. During that public hearing, anyone interested in addressing the commission on that subject will be allowed time to give us their comments. It's not required to sign. You didn't have to sign up hearing of residents in order to speak during the public hearing. So those of you that did sign up, I have 3 names on there, and you're welcome to speak now and again during the public hearing, or you can wait until the public hearing. It's your choice. So item number 3 is hearing of residents, and this time is set aside for any person who wishes to address the Planning and Zoning Commission. Each person should fill out the speaker's register prior to the meeting. So let's see, number 1 is Ted Dugan. Would you like to speak now, sir?
Sure, I can do that.
It's your choice. You can use both opportunities. So if you would, please name and address for the record.
I explained to the folks in the neighborhood meetings, I have a hearing aid here and a cochlear here. I don't hear real well, and my wife says I listen worse. But ladies and gentlemen of the Schertz Planning and Zoning Commission, first, Merry Christmas to all of you. Feliz Navidad, if that's appropriate. I am Ted DeWegan. I live at 1112 Antler Drive. Air Force active duty at the time, bought the house in 1973, moved in 1974, and here we are retired into that house in 1992. In those years, going back to when we first bought the house, I got involved in the city of Schertz government when the Texas Attorney General decided that the Board of Adjustment function should be removed from the city council to get rid of the conflict of interest. So for about 10 years, I was the chair or the vice chair of that commission to take care of the variances. Those of you that haven't been around perhaps Schertz quite as long as perhaps my wife and I and 4 daughters have, we watched 3009 go from 2 lanes that ended at El Bell to 5 lanes now that, as you know, goes all the way to 78. You could turn on El Bell, what we say now, go by the high school, but the high school wasn't there. The high school was over here on 1518 on the creek. During that period of time, after we were absorbed into the city from the ETJ, we've had, that I know of, 3 requests for rezoning. We live on this side of Antler Drive, or what we consider to be the southeast side of Antler Drive, and about 6 houses up. We have watched the land that goes from Antler to Fawn, of which the 2 lots that we're talking about in this proposal are the 2 lots that start on Fawn and come down to Antler, only one of which is built on with a residential house. We had a zoning request to change the zoning on what would be the southeast corner of Wiederstein Road and 3009. That was going to be a subsidized apartment complex. Testified at that, and that ultimately was not approved. As you know now, we're about to open up a child development center on that piece of property that ultimately was zoned out of the strict residential. About 5 years ago, I think it was, there was a proposal for these same 2 pieces of ground that face on 3009 from Fawn down to the occupied lot at Antler and 3009. I spoke at that, and that was not approved. So here we are now for what we understand to be a proposal to go not to government services or neighborhood services, but to general business. Not sure what all that means and what the opportunities are for somebody to build if it were to be rezoned, which I'm certainly against. So I'm here to speak and say there are meetings that we've had, the research that have been done by a lot of these younger people. There are a number of issues that you will hear about tonight. I want to just talk about one, and then I'll promise you that I'll sit down. And it has to do with the fact that we understand from research that the state of Texas is saying they are not prepared to grant any curb cuts for those two pieces of what are now R1 residential property to get on to 3009. And because there's a house on the southeast corner of Antler and 3009, no way to get onto Antler Drive from those properties unless there's a back alleyway built or something like that, which says that people that are going to go in and out of that property are going to have to do it in and out from Fawn Drive, and I assume it would be a back half-street alleyway, whatever. And because the lots are longer than they are wide, I can picture the traffic coming into Fawn any time of the day, especially in the evening, and getting out onto Fawn any time of the day, especially in the morning. You're not going to have but about space for 3, 4, 5 cars before they're going to be on the wrong side of whatever alleyway would give them access. I see that being a tremendous problem depending on what business might be proposed to go into that property. And the result of it, I see people coming out of the property and having to turn left on Fawn Drive and going up to Deer Run, turn left on Antler and come on down to where there's a traffic light. I don't imagine that there'd ever be another traffic light as close from Fawn and Antler. I mean, it's like, I don't know, 300 or 400 feet. So the traffic tie-up that I see going in as a result of any commercial development is going to be just a unsatisfactory situation, not only from those of us that live on those two streets, Fawn, Antler, and Deer Run, but the people trying to come in and conduct business in that area. Just not going to work. So thank you all very much.
Yes, sir, you're welcome. Thank you. Barbara Gonzalez, did I get that right?
Gonzalez?
Yes.
My dad owned the property before me, 1012 Antler Drive. I'm coming to explain that I have my dad's original deed to part of our property. They're side by side. It says that we have deed restrictions, and these deed restrictions say that we are single-family homes. You have them in your packet. Ms. Amaris put them in today. It's the second page of the .321 acre, Lot C. These are the deed restrictions that lead you to believe that we are single family, and this is the plat for the first part of Deer Haven. This is the lot that you're looking at right here for commercial. Have that in there. Any rate, it says no garage or outbuilding on this property shall be used as a residence or living quarters except for servants engaged on the premises. No garbage or refuse, trash, leaves, or other debris shall ever be allowed to collect or accumulate on this property, nor shall the grantees herein deposit any trash, refuse, garbage, leaves, or other debris on any portion of the Reuben Beck and Aaron Beck tract of land of which this lot is a part. There shall be no outdoor privies erected on any lot on this subdivision, and all plumbing shall be served by a septic tank or other sanitary sewage disposal system certified to be the county health officer as adequate. The grantees herein, their heirs and assigns, shall not maintain cattle, hogs, rabbits, or poultry on this tract of land. When you buy the land from the original owner before it's built on, you get the deed restrictions. When you buy the house from that person, like this other deed, the lot next door, 1.016, where the house is, you don't get the deed restrictions. But everybody here bought their land from the Becks. Okay, here it says on the first page, this conveyance is made subject to the following, it's the next to the last paragraph. This conveyance is made subject to the following restrictive covenants that run with the land. That means I don't care who owns it afterwards, that deed restriction stays on the land. Okay, it stays on that plot at the end of Fawn. It shall inure to the benefit of Reuben Beck and Aaron Beck, who sold the property to Mr. Figueroa, and we bought it from them. My dad bought it from them. Shall inure to the benefit of Reuben Beck, Aaron Beck, any beneficiary or persons holding property containing similar covenants obtained by the conveyance from those two people, their heirs and assigns, and grantees herein shall have the right to enforce such restrictions. Okay, we have the right. I'm the heir. I can enforce these restrictions. So can everybody else on here. Therefore, it's a single-family residential neighborhood. We were taken into the city. We were annexed into the city. We went from sulfur well water to city water. Mayor Baldwin found a government program that we didn't have to pay for connection fees for water. And since then, you all have gotten a lot of taxes from us. We've been R1, single-family residence. The first house that I know of that was built on this side was Art, the postmaster's house, retired postmaster's house. He got it in 1965. He moved in there. I moved in with my parents on Memorial Day, 1969. So we've been residential since then. We've got deed restrictions, and what I understand, if you have deed restrictions and you have a neighborhood, the city cannot change your zoning to commercial because you have deed restrictions. It's real important right now in Texas to have those deed restrictions to keep the city from imposing commercial zoning on your property. In Austin, for instance, they're trying to put up to 3 houses on everybody's house unless you have deed restrictions or you have an HOA that has regulations. And I have a site for that article if you'd like to see it. So I thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Any questions? You've got these 3 papers in there. They have Richard Mansfield, Eleanor Mansfield, and the original plat. Thank you so much. We're opposed.
Okay, and then finally, we have Kathy. Yeah, I'm sorry, I wasn't even going to try that one.
I understand. Good evening. My name is Kathy Kranovic, 1201 Etler Drive, and I would like to speak against the rezoning of the acreage at Fawn and 3009. A few years ago, the city paid professionals to study land usage in Schertz and recommend best practices. This neighborhood has historically been zoned R1 and should continue to stay that way. While other neighborhoods have commercial development at their entryways, they were designed for it by having the residences pushed back from the major street entrance. This isn't true in our case. A commercial structure would be intrusive into the neighborhood and out of place. As is mentioned, the need to build up the foundation on a commercial building, the paving for parking lots would impact an area that already floods. The additional lighting would be disruptive and much too bright for a residential neighborhood. And the additional traffic flow cannot be supported by our roads. We don't have curbs, it's winding, it's barely wide enough for 2 cars as it is. Please don't change a zoning that makes sense to one that is very inappropriate. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you all. Moving on to item number 4. Mike, can you hear me all right, or do I have to yell into this thing? New microphones, we're still adjusting. Thank you. Now, item number 4 is our consent agenda. We have a single item on that agenda. It's the minutes from our November 15th, 2023 regular meeting. There is no discussion on the consent agenda. Commissioners, do we need to pull this item for any discussion? If not, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
All right, I have a motion to approve from Commissioner Hector. Do I have a second?
A second.
That was Commissioner Brown. correct? All right, I've been informed that the electronic voting system is not working this evening, so we'll go back to old school. So starting to my left with Commissioner Carbone, if you would vote aye or no, and then we'll go.
Aye.
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 Aye. We haven't done that in a while. We're a little out of practice. All right, so that's 7 in favor, none opposed. That motion passes. Item number 5 is a public hearing. I'm not going to read this. Let me just explain what's going to happen. So we only have one agenda item that's for a public hearing. And what we will do is I'll kind of read a little bit of caption here, and then city staff will get up and give us all a presentation on the proposed zone change, their analysis, their recommendation. We'll then allow the applicant, if they're here, they'll have an opportunity to present their side. And then what I will do is I will open it for public input. And at that time, any of you that wish to address the commission are welcome to step forward. And just like in hearing the residents, name and address for the record, try to keep it to 3 minutes, okay? And then when you have all had your chance to say, I'll close that public input, and then the commission itself will start to ask questions and add their comments. One final thing, on a zoning case, the Planning and Zoning Commission is only a recommending body. City Council is the approval authority. So what we will do after we wrap this all up is we will make some kind of a recommendation to City Council for their action on this item. All right, so item 5A. PLZC 2023-0186, hold a public hearing, consider and make a recommendation on a request to rezone approximately 1.3 acres of land from single-family residential district R1 to general business district GB, generally located southeast of the intersection of Fawn Drive and FM 3009, parcel ID 20377 and 20378, City of Schertz, Guadalupe County, Texas.
Good evening, Commissioners. PLZC 2023-0186, zone change from single-family residential district R1 to general business district GB, Emrys Gomez, planner. So we have the property outlined in green here. Here is Fawn Drive, and here is FM 3009. On November 16th, 8 public hearing notices were mailed to the residents within the 200-foot buffer. Responses received as of 5 p.m. today, we received 30 oppositions, 0 in favor, 0 neutral, and 2 signs were posted on the property, one on Fawn Drive at this location here, and one off of FM 3009. The subject property, here again outlined in yellow, is zoned single-family residential district, which is R1. To the north of the property is right-of-way is Fawn Drive. South is single-family residential district, and the land use is single-family residential. To the east is right-of-way FM 3009, and to the west is single-family residential district, and the land use as well is single-family residential. The UDC section 2154 states that a zone change is required to establish the use of land and the development associated with the proposed zoning classification for the purpose of establishing and maintaining a sound, stable, and desirable development. Per the submitted letter of intent, the applicant is requesting to rezone to General Business District, GB. If the zone change is approved, the development would consist of a 4,000 to 5,000 square foot building that will be used for lower intensity office space. If the zone change is approved, the applicant will have to go through the site plan process in conformance with the UDC, section 21912, and will have to meet all City of Schertz UDC requirements as listed in Article 9. So UDC Section 2154D, criteria for approval. Whether the proposed zone change or zoning map amendment implements the policies of the adopted comprehensive land plan, including the land use classification of the property on the future land use map. So the land use plan designates the subject property as single-family residential district. Staff has concerns with the potential for higher intensity permitted land use within the general business district zoning designation, based on the comprehensive land use plan indicating a desire for lower intensity commercial. In evaluating the commercial zoning designation, there are 2 lower intensity commercial zoning districts that could have been requested, and those are Office and Professional District, OP, and Neighborhood Service District, NS. Approving the zone change to general business, GB, will allow for higher intensity in the future. Therefore, general business would not be ideal for the surrounding property uses based on the comprehensive land use plan designation. Whether the proposed zone change or zoning map amendment promotes the health, safety, and general welfare of the city and the safe, orderly, efficient, and healthful development of the city. So as part of promoting the health, safety, and welfare of the city encourages the zoning to be compatible with the surrounding uses to alleviate any negative impact. The comprehensive land use plan describes single-family residential as mix of residential uses as well as limited commercial development to support daily activities of development, stating that commercial uses should be compatible with the nearby residential areas and other uses through appropriate building height limitations and adequate buffering. The comprehensive land use plan would support the zone change to a lower intensity commercial zoning designation. However, staff has reviewed additional factors and feels that the specific property is not suitable and has additional concerns about the potential for more intensive permitted uses if this were to be rezoned as a general business. Therefore, staff does not recommend rezoning the subject property to general business based on the safety and general welfare of the surrounding area. Whether the uses permitted by the proposed change in zoning district classification and the standards applicable to such uses to be appropriate if the immediate area of the land to be reclassified. The Unified Development Code, Article 5, Section 2158, the permitted use table, identifies the land uses that would be permitted on the property if the requested general business district is approved. These include uses such as automobile repair and service, minor, building material and hardware sales, dance hall, nightclub, heavy equipment sales, office showroom, pawn shop, and tavern. These uses are not ideal immediately adjacent to an established single-family residential neighborhood. Alternatively, there are lower intensity commercial zoning designations that have more limited permitted uses per the Unified Development Code. Staff has reviewed the configurations of the subject property if the zoning were approved, and there are concerns based on the UDC requirements for landscape, buffer, and screening. Each of these requirements would limit the amount of buildable space. Staff also has concerns that there will not be adequate room for the required parking on the site, which causes an additional concern about potential parking onto Fawn Drive. Whether the proposed change is in accord with any existing or proposed plans for providing public schools, streets, water supply, sanitary sewers, or other public services and utilities in the area. To the best of staff's knowledge, this zone change would have minimal impact on public services to include schools, fire, police, sanitation services, and should have minimal impact on the existing water and wastewater systems. However, FM 3009 is classified as principal arterial, and Fawn Drive is considered a local street residential. The current design of Fawn Drive as a local street residential in the single-family residential neighborhood, which was established in 1975, is not ideal for commercial traffic, and it would have a negative impact. Whether there have been environmental and/or economical changes which warrant the requested change. To the best of staff's knowledge, there have been no environmental or economic changes which warrant the request for the zone change. Whether there is an error in the original zoning to the property for which a change is requested. There was no error in the original zoning of this property. Whether the applicant's back taxes owed to the city have been paid in full. No application will receive final approval until back taxes are paid in full. This does not impact consideration by the Planning and Zoning Commission or the first reading from City Council. Whether the criteria met which at the discretion of the Planning and Zoning Commission and the City Council are deemed relevant and important in the consideration of the amendment. This public hearing will provide a format for which the Planning and Zoning Commission can hear other potential issues and public opinion. The Commission may deem relevant and important considerations to inform recommendation to City Council during this time. Staff recommends denial of proposed zoning to General Business District GB based on the following. There are concerns regarding permitted uses within a general business district in relation to the comprehensive land use plan designation desiring limited commercial. Concerns impacting safety and welfare of the adjacent Deer Haven subdivision, and in addition to there being lower intensity commercial zoning designations than general business district that is being requested, which would accommodate the desired land use of office. And the applicant is here. He does not have a presentation. Comments or questions?
All right, thank you very much. All right, so if the applicant doesn't want to give an presentation, we'll just move right on to the public input part. Who is that?
That's the applicant.
Yes, if you like to, yes, sir, come on up. I thought you said he didn't. Is that- Oh, you just wanted to, okay, I'm sorry. That's fine. No, come on up.
Hello, sir.
If you would, your name and address, please.
Okay, so my name is Eugene Jin. We live down 3009, kind of past Garden Ridge area. So this, I guess, development is pretty much kind of like a retirement kind of plan for my wife and I. We're not in big business or anything. So my wife have established dental practice down the street on 3009, a pediatric dentist down the street, and we've been leasing the office for like the past 10 plus years. She's been working there for 7 plus, and so this is it's kind of our plan to kind of move the office to kind of like pay rent to yourself and kind of write off stuff for retirement purposes. So it's pretty much planned to be a dental office around 3,000 to 4,000 square feet. We put 5,000 square feet because it's kind of our first time doing this ourselves. So we're not exactly, I guess the thought process was to give ourselves the most flexibility on the building, but the plan is to have a dental office and possibly a chiropractic office or a kind of like a real estate little office building for my purpose. I'm a chiropractor, my wife is a dentist, and so that's kind of what that is for. We're more than happy to change the zoning request to office buildings because that's pretty much the purpose. I put it as GB1 just for flexibility purposes. So like if we want like a little tea shop, we'll just sell like boba drinks or whatever, stuff like that. So that's kind of where it's at. Ideally, it'd be great if we have an entrance on 3009 to go in and out, but from my understanding, we would have to go through Fawn and have a entrance toward the end of the property. I don't foresee too much traffic during rush hour. The dental office it's open around 8 and will be closed around 5 p.m. So when most people go in and out, it shouldn't disturb too much of that. And kind of that's where I'm at. So I understand it's residential, but up and down 3009, there's the church, big church building coming up, and then there's daycare center coming up. And I think that will actually kind of, help each other with the, pediatric dental office and so forth. And I do know that there's a lot of dental offices on the Schertz area, but that's kind of the thought process behind why we kind of picked that location. So, but yeah, not to step on anybody's toes, hopefully, but that's kind of but we're more than happy to change the zoning to more restrictive if that will make the residents feel better, for sure. So.
All right, thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
All right, let's see, it is, no, hang on a minute.
Okay.
Okay? Hang on. I got to keep track of where I'm at. Okay, it is, I started to look, it's 6:31 p.m. And at this point, I'll open the hearing for public comment. Please, go ahead, come on up. Name and address again for the record, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
My name is William Summers. I live at 1016 Antler Drive with my wife. We bought our house there in 1982. I've been practicing law in San Antonio for the last 45 years, primarily in construction defect litigation and land use and municipal use. We have been there for a long time. It's a very unusual neighborhood. The one thing I really want to point out to you is the deed restrictions, which run with the land in perpetuity, prohibit the use of that land for anything other than residential purposes. Every one of the lots in Deer Haven are subject to that restriction. So even if the planning and zoning were to recommend to city council, there will be litigation resulting from attempting to change something in the deed restriction. I would highly recommend that you recommend that the zoning not be changed. I'd also point out back in January of 2018, a prior application to change it to neighborhood services was recommended by the Planning and Zoning Commission to be denied and not make that recommendation. I was one of the speakers at that hearing. It was back in January of 2018, and I'll stand by what I said at that point in time. Thank you. I did serve in the Planning and Zoning Commission for 10 years from 2020 to 2010, and I know the hard problems y'all face. Thank you very much for your service in doing this.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jody Baker. I live at 1208 Fawn Drive. We are the home just uphill from this parcel, and I've written a very detailed letter, submitted it to you. It's in the record. I'm not going to reiterate any of that information. I would just like to clarify that this neighborhood was never platted for commercial on the front. I know that's already been stated. Our home was literally the very first home in this neighborhood before it was a neighborhood. Our home was designed and built facing 3009, which means it is facing this lot. So as he does a chiropractic office or a tea, parlor or whatever he wants to put down there, we are looking at those cars coming in and out. And the 8-foot fence, as we're elevated above this lot, the 8-foot required fence would not block his parking lot. We would watch all that commercial come and go all day long. So there's many other points. Flooding is a major concern, but I'd like to talk to him about that maybe more. So, sir, if you'd like to talk to me, I'd love to talk to you. But again, thank you all so much just for reviewing all this critically and making a good decision, I think, in my mind. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Hello, Cody Watson, 916 Fawn. I'm representing my girlfriend's family. I created a petition on change.org. We currently have 115 people who have signed on for halt the proposed commercial rezoning of Deer Haven in Schertz, Texas. I'd like to read the petition as it states for everybody. As residents of Deer Haven, one of Schertz's first neighborhoods, we cherish our community's natural beauty and tranquility. Our neighborhood has been unobstructed from commercial zoning since its inception. It is a unique haven for people and wildlife alike in Guadalupe County. We are now facing a threat that could change the character of our beloved neighborhood forever. A proposal is currently under, etc. We strongly oppose the rezoning initiative because it will not only disrupt the peaceful ambiance that defines our community, but also pose potential risks to local residents and wildlife. The introduction of commercial zoning into a residential area can lead to increased traffic congestion, noise pollution, light pollution at night, disturbing nocturnal wildlife behavior patterns, and potentially lower property values due to changes in neighborhood aesthetics. We urge the city officials to consider these impacts on Deer Haven's residents, both human and animal, before making any decisions about rezoning this area for commercial use. I would like to reiterate the wildlife issue. It hasn't been discussed yet tonight. There is a large population of deer in Deer Haven, as such is the name. If we have an increased amount of commercial traffic into the area, there will be an increased amount of accidents, period. People do not know how to drive around deer, especially fawns. These fawns will run right across the street that they do not understand. They will be hit, and there will be more accidents. Any increased profits from the area will be counteracted by the increased amount of accidents in the area. I personally am very concerned about the wildlife in the area, and I strenuously oppose any type of rezoning for that reason. Thank you.
If anybody needs to see them, or I can hand them to you. My name is Mary Hammond. I live at 1213 Fawn Drive. My property is the one directly across Fawn Drive from the property we're discussing. If you look at a topographical map, and I can hand...
Yeah, maybe if you would.
Is there a way to, so everyone can see those?
Yeah.
I can pull up the maps when commissioners requested.
Well, can we use the
Is this map good?
That's good enough. I can explain it from here, and then he has the
Okay.
ones I've drawn, if you want to see that. Well, it doesn't show that.
Well, I was wondering, can we use the camera so she can put this?
Over here? There we go.
And I stopped your timer, by the way, so we're not going to charge this against you.
Okay.
Take it up. There you go.
Where am I? Oh, more. Okay, thank you. That's what I'm going to talk about. Let me see if I can find where I am. Okay. Here it is right here. This area here is the area that we're talking about. My house is directly on this side right here. And what you're seeing is topographical lines that run from the top of Fawn Drive and top of Antler Drive all the way down. If you look at a topographical map, the top of Fawn Drive and Antler are at 850 feet above. That is higher than HEB. To get your mind set on how high that is, there's 4 hills all the way around our properties that all flow down into the property that we're discussing. And that shows at 750 feet. That's a 100-foot drop. All the water that hits that hill, because most of that is rock strata, and there's very little topsoil there. The oaks go through those rocks, but there's not much soil around those oaks. And so any water that falls, it doesn't have anywhere to be absorbed, and it comes downhill. Going the same way. This might be a little confusing, but that's your water flow. My parents built this property in 69, so 1969. And so we've seen a lot of changes in the water flow. I've been there my whole life, and you can tell all that water comes down. Right back this direction is where the church is going to be built. Revolution Church is going to be there, and that's on another hill. So that hill feeds into us. The hill above Fawn and Antler come down to us, and then there's the hill that's across 3009 and goes up that way where all the water comes off. Everything kind of accumulates in my property right here. When the city came in and put in the curbs, they brought soil into this property and built it up so that there was a base for their big equipment to set. And when they did that, they raised the water level a little bit, the land level a little bit there. But then they also dropped my side of the curb, making it an entrance for all the water that comes down Fawn to come right into my front yard. Want to know what kind of issue that is? There's my husband standing there. That's 2015, which was one of the last big floods. And if you'll notice, that water is at the same height as 3009. The city, when my parents built the property, 3009 was a 2-lane dirt road, and they were just paving it. And there was a great big drainage ditch. As 3009 expanded, they encroached coming our direction because they couldn't go into that big drainage ditch that's on the other side of us. So as it's come down, it's gotten narrower and narrower, excuse my Texas accent there, but you can see there's almost no drainage ditch there at all. This is back from 2018 when I talked before the board there. And that's another reason why you can't do an entrance off of 3009 into this property, because the drop-off is so great. Mr. Baker also gave me these for you guys to see. There's some other pictures of floodwater. And anybody who has driven down 3009 knows that my front yard stays a pond for about, we call it Fawn Drive Pond, and it stays there for probably about 10 days before it gets soaked into the property. If you come in and do a commercial property there, and you have to come in and put parking lot, the 8-foot fence, everything else, that's going to impede that water from going across and into the drainage ditch there and push it even further into my property. As it stands right now, when it comes in, it hits the bottom part of my property, the part of my house that's closest to 3009, and backs up into that. And so we have to go out there and actually dig trenches to help get it away from the house to keep it from coming in. We've already talked about the property, where the entrance of the property would be, coming back into Fawn Drive. As it stands right now, we can't get out. We have to go around to Antler to get onto the stoplight to get out on 3009 as it is. And I just see that problem is going to escalate. To the person who is applying for this, I apologize, because he was actually sold a lemon. And in the past, when they've tried to sell this property before, it's the fact that it's so far down and the floodwaters come up. For him to be able to put a business there, he'd have to build that up to keep his business from flooding. And as he does that, he restricts the flow of the water. And all of that comes down off of these hills was basically a dry creek bed that over the time period now has been built up. But still, when the water comes down, it flows across all of that and it goes into an inadequate ditch system and causes all sorts of problems. Thank you for hearing me, and thank you for setting up the projector for me.
You're welcome. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, evening. I want to thank you guys. I was on a city council commission in Kansas when we lived there, and it can be a thankless job at times. I'm very aware of that. We were tasked with drainage, as you might imagine what that could cause. And I want to praise the staff, which where all they go, I don't know, but they've been so helpful through this process of trying to understand what's going on.
Excuse me, real quick.
Bobby Jones, 1101 Fawn Drive, I'm sorry. Unlike many, I'm shocked at how many of the people are original owners in Deer Haven, or their children, the original owners' children. My wife and I just moved there recently, as we're newcomers compared, and we bought in 2018. And, you know, just the neighborhood, we used to drive through there a couple of times a year just thinking, gosh, we'd love to live here, since we moved here in 98, into Schertz in 98. Well, we finally got to do that, and we did it because of what the neighborhood is, and any rezoning of that area will change that, and it'll take away from what we sought and what we purchased. As I drive along 3009, 78, back up Schertz Parkway, I find there's a lot of commercial buildings available. There's a lot of land still available, already zoned commercial. In fact, less than 200 yards up the street, up toward the south, I guess, would be down, but from these lots, there's a lot there for sale. So my understanding, reading the Unified Development Code, which Zane Gray didn't write that, I can guarantee you that. It's not a good read. There needs to be a need. There should be a need to do rezoning, and there's simply not a need. There's plenty of commercial property available in the city of Schertz. So I trust you'll take that into consideration. I think the staff probably did. You know, enriching one owner at the expense of 80 others just be totally wrong. And that's what would happen here. I agree with that, you know, maybe he was sold a lemon and maybe didn't understand, and but it'd just be wrong. So I'm running out of time. One of the graphics that I sent that I thought it was going to be in the presentation by staff is when you get down to the wall, the buffering and setback requirements, you end up with 65 feet of space from the front along 3009 to the back of the property, usable space, only 65 feet. I brought my little laser and measured. That's not very much wider than this building that we're standing in. It's a small space, so you're going to fit a building and parking in there. And then, oh, by the way, the square footage that's left, you're going to have to put in a dumpster and have a truck go in and out of there. So I say that to say, I hope you can make it clear. I know you're taking up the issue at hand, which is general business, but Neighborhood Services has also already been denied, a recommendation to deny in 2018. If he comes back with office professional, I hope you'll make it clear, save him some money, save us all some time, and make it clear that you wouldn't support that. And I doubt if he even knows what it would cost to remove all those trees. I think he needs to be educated there, because you'd probably have to remove 50 trees to build in that area what he wants to build. Thank you.
Well, don't go too far, or somebody else will jump in front of you. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Evening, ladies and gentlemen of the commission. My name is Randy Potts. I stand in proxy for Lisa Cherry of 1105 Fawn Drive. I was told as appropriate by the staff that I could do that. She's my fiance, who is out on business right now. So these are her words. I'm sorry, I'm not as eloquent or articulate as she would be, or anywhere near as attractive, but I'll do the best I can. Ladies and gentlemen of the commission, we are devastated that we are once again facing a request for rezoning part of our beautiful neighborhood, Deer Haven, from residential to commercial. This is an action that we ardently oppose. We grew as a family in this neighborhood and have been a part of the continuing changes for more than 50 years. We remember moving to Deer Haven when there was almost no commercial development along FM 3009. This area seemed so remote, and the stars at night hung so low you could practically touch them. The beauty and peacefulness of our neighborhood was unequaled in Schertz then, just as it is now. Commercial development has taken a toll along FM 3009, systematically destroying the quaint country road that it once was. This request to put commercial development at our Deer Haven entrance now is simply going to beyond what is needed or desired. When you pass the entrance to our neighborhood at FM 3009, you almost don't even notice that there are homes stuck behind the beautiful trees. This has essentially protected our homes as a sanctuary, since most people don't even see our small oasis of rural peace. There is no longer a sign at our entrance, but there are simply streetlights. Our homes are very different from other neighborhoods in the Schertz community, with our home styles being varied and unique on large lots, preserving many legacy trees. Our properties are not cookie cutter. Homes that each express character with elegance. So many of our neighbors have owned their homes for decades, raised their children, and now those adult children have purchased the homes, creating a generational homesteads. Our neighborhood is home to white-tailed deer that number more than 50 in this particular area. We also have foxes, raccoons, squirrels, rodents, rabbits, possums, feral cats, ring-tailed cats, skunks, red-tailed hawks, owls, Mexican ducks, hummingbirds, cardinals, and many more species. All of these animals experience the same sense of this is my home that we humans do in our neighborhood called Deer Haven. Our neighborhood is like walking around in a park that's actually a nature preserve. The two lots in question for the rezoning actually are one of the main lounging areas where the deer make their bed at night and rest in the heat of the day. The herd actually will bed down throughout Deer Haven, and there are clear trails where they trek the entire neighborhood seeking their favorite nibbles or the next resting place. This herd has consistently birthed healthy fawns every year, perpetuating the legacy of this area being a haven for deer. Many residents feed them and provide water, especially during times of drought. We can't imagine having to fight any kind of commercial traffic to enter one of the most peaceful places on our planet, our neighborhood. We know that none of the residents in Deer Haven ever expected to have to drive through a commercial area or a parking lot to access their quiet place to live, nor did they expect to endure commercial traffic throughout this residential area. This will severely impact our home values now and for the future homeowners. The general ambiance of our entire neighborhood will be sacrificed. This doesn't just affect the houses immediately bordering the property in question. Rezoning to commercial will drastically affect the environment, ambiance, and deer habitat that we purchased our homes to enjoy. The street names themselves, Fawn, Antler, and Deer Run, all testify to the original vision of establishing this neighborhood as a deer haven. We believe that rezoning any part of Deer Haven for any type of commercial use will destroy the sanctity of our homes and the habitat for our deer herd. Please do not allow commercial development at the entrance of our lovely neighborhood. Respectfully, Marcia Cherry and her daughter, Lisa Cherry Barchesty. Thank you very much.
Come on up. I was going to make sure it was your turn anyway, so.
Now serving number, no. My name is Stephen Phillips, and I'm one of the aforementioned long-term family members of Deer Haven. I remember digging this lateral to the septic tank just before you guys brought us in, but be that as it may. A few things. I'm going to be very brief here. I think more eloquent people than I have explained how the adverse impact of this rezoning will be to not only personal pocketbooks, land, property estimates. I feel sorry for the applicant because I think there was a misunderstanding of what he could do with that property. It will not support the traffic. He does not understand getting out of Fawn onto 3009 at any hour of the day, dark or night, does not matter. I went to school with some of these folks I watched grow up. I've seen them struggle. I've seen them not struggle. But again, this is the third time that I can remember we're all here to do this. I would hope that you would vote with your heart instead of your pocketbook. I would like to see the applicant also work out something else if he plans on keeping it. And I thank you for your time.
Um, No, Ms. Gonzalez, I'm sorry, you had your opportunity, okay?
I can do it later.
Jeremiah Nishatka, 1105 Antler Drive. I represent one of the newer, younger families in the neighborhood, and we moved into the neighborhood in 2019, and we did it specifically because of Deer Haven. We would not be in Schertz if it wasn't because of Deer Haven. When we were looking at Garden Ridge, we were looking at several other communities, and Deer Haven was just the perfect combination of those larger lots, and it's something that nice wooded community that gave us that sense of being away from the city, really a true haven. We moved into Herb Raymond's old house, who was a builder in that area, and it took that legacy really seriously. Herb was a critical figure in this town. I worked for a planning board up in Massachusetts, and when we moved into their family home and have since adopted 5 kids into their family home, we've just taken that legacy in that neighborhood really seriously, and have actually had the old Deer Haven sign. We found it in the kids' playhouse. And so this neighborhood absolutely has history. And even for the younger residents, when we look at what this neighborhood is and what it means for our family, my wife and I and our kids take walks almost every night around the neighborhood, and we said we can't believe we're so lucky to be here. And what they say about the traffic is probably my biggest concern, because it takes a while to get out of Antler. You have to, like, even to take a right turn on Red, everyone would have to come around Fawn through where the bus stop is for the kids and up Antler Drive and back up onto Antler. And there's usually 2 or 3 cars waiting at that traffic light by the time it turns green, because it's a slow light. And so even now, so we're talking 3, 4, 5, 6 cars, in line for that. So we appreciate the neighborhood. We appreciate the being a part of a more mature neighborhood. And I know that the city probably appreciates the fact that we're younger and our property taxes were unfrozen. And that's happening more and more in every house in the neighborhood as well. So as these younger families move in, that absolutely opens it up for additional revenue that would be gone if the nature of this neighborhood's gone. So thank you very much.
All right, Ms. Mansfield Gonzalez, I'm sorry, I apologize. You spoke during your residence, but you haven't spoken during the public hearing, right? So I'm sorry, you do, if you'd like to come up, and you can have another 3 minutes.
So I'm going to say Barbara Mansfield Gonzalez, 1012 Antler.
Can you get just a little bit closer to the microphone?
Yes, sir.
You can pull it down a little bit if that'll help.
Yeah. Is this going to show the camera? Do you see this?
Yes.
Okay. This is my dad's list of, I just counted 76 birds. He was a birder. Okay, that is the bird wildlife. You will even see a cormorant on there, besides our great horned owl. But I wanted to go back to the roads. The roads were redone in 2008. They are so narrow that you cannot pass the garbage truck when it's going down the street. It has flat curbs like the lady showed you in the picture, and that's for us to move off if there's an emergency vehicle. And I don't want to give up my emergency vehicles. I don't want to give up the fire I want them, the fire trucks and the ambulances, I want them to get there quickly. I wanted to tell you that there's no sidewalks for the kids to get off onto if there's cars trying to make an appointment time. I wanted to tell you that it's 0.7 miles at least from the light at Antler through Deer Run and around to the proposed office space. I wanted to tell you that my mother told me when they widened 3009 from 2 lanes to 4 lanes, they cut down trees. Trees keep things from flooding. They accidentally, quote unquote, knocked down this tree that she liked with a bulldozer. Now, trees keep you from flooding. When they made it wider, they just split the creek bed into 2. They could have built a house there maybe before, but you know there's something wrong. The minute they put those water flow, great big pipes, 2 under Fawn and 3 under Antler, and that culvert under the under the 3009, you know they were just splitting the creek. And I found out when I talked to Amarise today that that is considered an area that is flood prone. And we wanted to tell you that we have no street lights to speak of. We finally got the traffic light after 30 years because we did not have a through street to the next subdivision. We got that because we couldn't get out. And that's about it. I just thought that that might be helpful, knowing that if you have customers or patients coming, you want them to come. If they're in a hurry, they're not going to stop for the school kids. Oh, I wanted to tell you that in 2008, when they redid the streets, they widened the part next to the entrances on Fawn and Antler to 3009 so that people could slow down when they came onto Antler or onto Fawn. If you park there, you're going to hit somebody. If you have a patient who's getting in and out of their car because they can't park in a flooded parking lot and they're parking on Fawn instead, you're going to have people that are going to be hit. I appreciate your time and your patience. Thank you very much. We're still against it.
I'm Bill Marciniak, 908 Antler Drive. I'm here with my wife and my mother-in-law who lives at 1200 Antler. Asked me to speak to her. I'm not going to repeat what everybody said, but I have a question. Not knowing really anything about zoning and planning, I kind of look at planning as building a city, and I kind of look at zoning as protecting a city, and protecting what I have. My question is, if that is rezoned commercial, the residents that live up against 3009, would they be forced to zone commercial as well? And would they have the right to be commercial to get more value out of their property, not because they would like to, but because I would probably do that if a commercial building was built next to me. So it's kind of a slippery slope where now you're looking at one lot that somebody might build a very nice little office, but then the other people that are living on Antler Drive are going to probably be not Antler, but on 3009, they're going to say, hey, I need to get the best value out of my property, and commercial is going to be a better value than residential. So all of a sudden I see in a number of years all of those houses sold, and now you've got 4 or 5 or 6 commercial operations there. And once you pass it for one, how do you deny it for another? Okay?
Yes, sir. I make notes because the process is not two-way during this. So we make notes and try to answer the questions when we can. Come on up, ma'am.
I wasn't planning on speaking, but I just wanted to voice my opposition. 1205 Antler Drive, so my property actually connects to the lot that's being considered for rezoning. And my biggest concern, I think, is the safety, not just, how many accidents we see on Walgreens and Savannah, where Walgreens is at, on Savannah and 3009, but the fact that my children, they ride their bikes every week. I think everybody in the neighborhood has seen them out riding their bikes, and our roads are country roads. They don't meet the city street guidelines, and we have no sidewalks. So I think that's my biggest opposition would be because of the safety of everybody in the community and our children. So thank you.
Hi, good evening. I'm Jason Penny. I live at 1005 Antler. My wife and I just moved in. We bought the house back in July and have been remodeling it ever since. We've only been able to live there for about 3 weeks. And the biggest reason we purchased there, similar to Jeremiah, was how peaceful and quiet and calm it was. And I agree with him. I live not too far down the road from him is the safety of my children, with the increased traffic and cars pulling around, downfall, and crossing over and then coming down to the light. If there was a business there previous to me buying it, I probably wouldn't have bought the house. And it's a big hit to me because it was a proud moment. It took us a while to save money to buy it, and I'd hate to see it change. So, thank you.
My name is Frank Morales. I live at 1109 Antler Drive. My wife and her family are legacy homeowners there, and we now occupy and own the home. Two things I'd like to say that weren't mentioned tonight, and I want to thank everybody for turning out and bringing really important information forward, and your patience and your time, planning and zoning as well. Two things. The speed limit on Antler Drive and Fawn Drive and Deer Run is 20 miles an hour. Traffic that comes into our neighborhood, who are people who don't live there, have no knowledge or regard for the speed limit. We'll see people barreling down Antler Drive, going 40, 45, even 50 miles an hour to come to a screeching halt at the light. Any traffic that's not familiar with the neighborhood that would enter it for any kind of development would likely have to go around, up Fawn, across Deer Run, and out the light. It's dangerous, particularly rush hour in the morning, coming home time from work, and I work in my yard all the time. I have deer that settle for the night every night. Traffic would be a serious issue, and people who don't know the neighborhood would not understand speed limits 20 miles an hour. No sidewalks. That point's been well made. I just think that it's important to understand the transition. Traffic comes off of 3009 doing the posted speed limit's 45. There's a lot of traffic on that road that's going a lot faster than that. They have to decelerate hard, turn into the neighborhood. And again, it's been mentioned, I'll say it one more time. You get any kind of services that are in the neighborhood for delivery, construction of any kind, city services, city trucks, etc. You barely have room to pass each other. So speed limits and the condition of the road, our chip seal road is a country lane. It's not a typical Schertz residential street. It's just not equipped for it. But I thank everybody for their time.
Hello, Jonathan Rowe, 1109 Fawn Drive. Fairly recent resident in the last 6 years. And I agree with everyone, what they've been saying in opposition, and I just wanted to point out one more thing that's along the same lines. As far as traffic and parking, there are curbs down at the bottom of Fawn Drive, and so when somebody pulls in and parks, it's like they're saying it's now a one-lane road. Not that it was almost a one-lane road already. And, you know, my son used to ride the bus at some point, but it would take him an hour to get home and an hour to get up earlier because we're the last drop-off spot because the buses don't want to turn in left onto Fawn Drive from 3009. So they route them to come down Wiederstein after they've dropped off the other neighborhood as the last people from our particular neighborhood and nobody else from that neighborhood. And so they could take a right from 3009 into the driveway so they can get in easily because it's really hard to get in and out of there. I take a left when I leave Fawn Drive. If there's traffic that wants to come in from, 78 on up, they would have to be in the center lane, which would not allow me to get into the center lane because you get in the center lane, you wait, and you have room. And so anybody having to park along Fawn Drive is just, you're either going to be parking in somebody's yard halfway to keep your car, which people do anytime there's a garage sale or something. It's like, oh, there go my sprinklers heads, Need to get those new plastic things. But anyway, thanks for your time and listening, and just wanted to throw in a little bit more. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Robin Geiger Camacho, 1100 Fawn Drive, and tonight we represent three generations. I grew up in that house, and I've moved back to live here along with my daughter. My mom still owns a home there. And we definitely agree with what everyone has said here tonight, that we would like to keep the neighborhood as is. And we're a wonderful neighborhood. We know each other. We went to school together. I was the first one picked up and the last one dropped off on that bus route many years ago. I don't want to say how many. I counted the trees on those lots today, and there's over 75 trees on that lot, those two lots. So it's just going to be so detrimental to the neighborhood. And we do love the beauty of it. We love how quaint it is. We love each other as neighbors. And our family, we definitely oppose any rezoning of Deer Haven. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dana Summers. I live at 1016 Antler Drive with my husband, Bill. We've lived there for a little over 40 years. I wanted to start this evening by thanking your staff. They have been so supportive and kind and patient with all of us as we've all called with questions. I wanted particularly to recognize Amaris for all the help that she was, Amaris Gamez. And then I talked to a Deputy County Clerk, Beverly Britt, who was very kind, and then the Deputy City Secretary, Cherie Corney. And all of these people were supportive, they were kind, they didn't make me feel awkward at calling and asking. I was trying to find out history of the neighborhood and to find out some of the different issues. This has all kind of weighed heavy on us, all of us, and I could talk tonight about Deer Haven as our home. We've lived there over 40 years, but the real concerns that I have are for my neighbors. They're so precious that I've come up here tonight and spoken. I'm very concerned for Jeremiah and Melody. I don't know if you heard him when he mentioned they had adopted 5 children. We've sort of adopted them too. They're precious. And there are no sidewalks in our neighborhood, so all of our children, they are out on the streets and playing, and for the most part, we know that and are considerate and careful in the way we drive through the neighborhood. The other thing I wanted to be sure that we were clear about, people have mentioned it, but I don't know if the person that bought the property is aware. Robin said she counted over 75 trees, and I can confirm that. I did also. And I spoke to Bobby Jones, who talked earlier tonight. I was asking him, well, how is it exactly that you determine whether a tree is protected or if it's a heritage tree? And he said, well, you have to have calipers, and if it's more than 8 inches, it would be protected, the diameter of the tree when you put the caliper on it. And if it's more than 24 inches, it would be a heritage tree. And that lot has a number of heritage trees, and it has almost every tree as would be protected of the 75. So I know there's a lot of mitigation and money that has to be spent in order to take those trees down. But it also, there's so many issues with the flooding that concern me. I think about the Harmons when they showed the pictures of them out in their front yard. They can't sustain more water. I'm concerned with the church coming in behind them, and now if we put commercial in front of them, what are we doing to them? That's their family home. I'm concerned about all of the neighbors with the flooding. The person that buys that lot, in order to use it, they're going to have to build it up so that theirs doesn't flood. That's going to create problems for the people that are there in their homes. That water's got to go somewhere. So I said on my letter to you, I'll say it again, one of my favorite songwriters, John Prine, please don't pave paradise and put up a parking lot. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Amy White. I live at 909 Antler Drive. I emailed you guys a letter, and I also went old school and mailed one in our mailbox. But I just want to tell you that in 1976, my parents, Irvin and Linda Juby, built a home at 909 Antler Drive in Deer Haven. And this is where I grew up from the ages of 2 to 18 years. After graduating from Clemens, sadly, my parents sold my childhood home, and to say the least, I was devastated. In the years after they sold it, I graduated college, got a teaching job, got married, bought and sold 2 houses, and had 3 children of my own. In 2012, my childhood home on Antler went up for sale, and my husband David and I gladly bought it back. We now have lived here 11 years with our 3 boys, and our youngest has said, Mom, I'm gonna buy the house when you guys leave. So this neighborhood is truly a gem. It's tucked away with gorgeous trees and an abundance of beautiful deer, as you've heard. And even though our streets do not have sidewalks, we enjoy seeing our neighbors walking and children riding their bikes. We have very little traffic and crime, and we truly love our neighborhood. It has often been compared to Garden Ridge, because you really can't find anything like it anywhere else in Schertz. So all of the reasons that you've heard tonight are all the ones that I had put in my letter as well, so I will not go through and repeat those. But please consider the impact it will have on us homeowners. And that is it, and I would just want to thank you for your time.
Anyone else?
Good evening, and again, thank you for your time and everything you guys do. My name is Mike Graves, formerly of 101 Thomas Edison, then of Schertz, 1628 Ebony Lane in Schertz, and finally in 2016, my wife's family home came up for sale, and we were able to purchase it from them too. So we too are longtime Schertz residents and now in the home that we want. My parents grandkids grew up in that place. We'd spend many holidays there, walking up and down the streets, having fun, and now those grandkids have my grandkids, and I would like to do the same still. My sister and brother-in-law live on the street as well at 930, I forget what the address, she'll be able to tell you if she comes up. But my wife spoke in the 2018 one, and for the same exact reasons, I want to support her and my family as well for those reasons back when it was denied for less intensive purposes. And want to make sure that everybody understands that we definitely oppose it as well. So thank you for your time, and thank you for the city planner.
Okay, make a comment here real quick if you don't mind, sir. No, it just, sure, stay right there. Don't go away. Well, I just want to make sure that there's no misconception out there. You don't have to be a resident of Deerhaven to speak for or against this property. This is a public hearing. It's open to anybody. So if anybody out there is a non-resident and you have something to say, you're more than welcome to say it. Thank you, sir. Go ahead.
Paul and Mary Kowalski, 1121 Antler Drive. They say speak up, so we're just here to oppose. I don't want to keep repeating. We live in Deerhaven. We love it. We don't want to see it change. We bought the house for the acreage, for the deer, and, you know, here to oppose.
Good evening. I'm Marjorie Brody, and I live at 4201 Deer Run. I sent you a letter expressing my opposition to this, but as I've been listening tonight, one of the things that I've been thinking is my house is the only house that faces Deer Run. Deer Run is the center of the H, and if we're going to have more traffic, my beautiful country home is going to turn into a home that's been moved like in front of a highway. I mean, not that drastic perhaps, but that's what I'm going to be seeing. Normally, kids get picked up on the corner of our property in the front of the house. We have lots of deer that sleep on the side of our house, and we're gonna look out and just see cars going, trying to get to the light on Antler so they can cross. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? One more time? No, that's not necessary. We've received that message. Okay. I just wanted to say, I want now, if there is anyone that hasn't spoken that wants to, once I say it's closed, there's no more input from the audience. So I'll ask one more time. Anyone? All right, come on up. No, but I, gotcha. All right. Are you coming up? I am. Okay. No, we're, the whole idea is to hear anybody that has something to say. That's what we're here for tonight. So by all means, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Melissa Duffield Smith, and my family has been in the neighborhood since 1972. I have a couple of questions, probably for the planners. My understanding is that there would have to be a buffer for any parts of the lot facing residents. Is that correct?
Okay, yes, we'll note your question.
So here's my question when we get to that. If there is a buffer buffering the Harmon's land as they face the lot in question, where would the turn-in on Fawn be for people going to that business? We've already talked about that entrance is kind of difficult to negotiate. So if you're having a limited entrance, you're having more of a backup there as well. I also saw the flooding in some of the pictures. It's gotten much worse since when I grew up and wanted to get Eyewitness Newsreel to come take a picture of us playing in the land. But if that property is built up, then do you also have a possibility with flooding of 3009 as a major arterial? So that would be a concern that I had as well. And then also piggybacking on some of the people talking about this gentleman totaling his car, trying to get out of Fawn. There have been numerous accidents on Fawn throughout the years. Of course, this is going back a while, and especially there was one fatality already without the traffic that would be increased.
Anyone else? Sure. Okay, it is 7:25 p.m. and the public input part of this hearing is closed. Sorry, I try to keep notes here. All right, commissioners, let's start, if you don't mind, let's start with, I noted a couple of questions that I think were for staff. One of them dealt with zoning. If this property were, come on up, but if this property were to be rezoned, it would affect only these two lots, no one else in the subdivision. You know, if someone that had a home and wanted to rezone, that would certainly be a possibility. I spent 20 plus years, I was the fire marshal here in Schertz, and a lot of my job included making decisions in applying the fire and building codes. And foremost in my mind every time I made a decision was setting a precedent, because you're exactly right. Once you do it for one, how do you not do it for the next one? So that's something that I took very, it was very important to me as I made decisions to consider that kind of thing. And it's certainly something that staff would and probably deals with even now, that so that when we do make these kinds of things, we want to be able to say what was unique about this one that we said yes, but we're saying no to you. Is that about right from the planning people?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So how about the buffer issue? Can you address that?
So I do have here. So here's this is the exhibit here. Here are the two lots. So we do require a 20-foot landscape buffer to go around the property, so that's seen here. And so there would need to be a 50-foot setback off of 3009, and so it would be this far in. As far as from the residence and Fawn Drive, again, that would be a 20-foot setback along here and here, including the landscape buffer. So this is how far or how tight it's going to be on the actual property, including, again, the landscape and the setbacks.
Okay, thank you. No, I'm sorry, sir. Now, staff will be around. If you'd like to stick around, we just have a very short business after this. And staff will be more than happy to answer any questions you have. But as far as the way the meeting runs, no. I just want to say, I'm your neighbor. I live in Savannah Square, almost to the top of the hill. I'm up there at Forsyth and Savannah. Moved there in the summer of 1989. I remember 3009 being 2 lanes and nothing basically on 3009. No Walgreens, no dentist's office, no pizza place. And I have to say, I envy you folks that can live in Deer Haven. My wife and I would really like to, when we were house shopping back in '89, the realtor didn't even bother showing us Deer Haven. But I occasionally ride my bicycle through there. So I'm very familiar with that downhill. I normally go up Fawn and come down Antler. And that's quite a ride coming down Antler. Some of your four-legged friends have been visiting my front yard recently. We think they come up there for the acorns. But that's how far they roam. Because I don't know distance-wise, but you know where Savannah, and one day as I ride my bicycle, as I say, I go up Fawn and come across Deer Run and down Antler. Well, as I'm going across on Deer Run, I don't know, there's 4 or 5 does, and they're laying in the shade of the solar panels. Whoever has those solar panels, they were enjoying the shade because it was one of those summer days. So yes, I've seen the flooding. Again, I was in the fire department for 25 years. I've dealt with a lot of that. It would have been really nice when they laid out the subdivision. See, I look at those 2 lots and I'm thinking, well, okay, lot 1A there, that's right there on Fawn, but how do you get to lot 1B? You know, it would have been real nice if somebody had bought 1 or 2 of those lots and built a house, and we wouldn't be dealing with this today. It's typically, if you look at the way 3009 is developing, it's typically commercial along the frontage. However, Deer Haven's a little unique in that, my subdivision, Savannah Square, Woodland Oaks, those were all planned with commercial frontage. So Deer Haven is a little unique. And anyway, I've got some other things, but I'd like to give the other commissioners. Usually I talk a lot and they don't say much, but who else has something? Questions, comments, thoughts?
So I'll just say when I was looking into the proposal for rezoning, I immediately started thinking about what other areas here within the community would be representative of what that would potentially look like if rezoned for general business purposes. And I immediately go back to where the old Kelsey Seabold facility was, right off of 3009. I remember taking my mother there for appointments. And I just remember it being kind of a mess from a traffic perspective, as well as those homes that were within probably 100 to 200 feet beyond that property. So I do agree with Mr. Outlaw. Deer Haven is one of the few unique subdivisions probably that we have left here in Schertz. I guess my question really goes back to I've heard it several times about the deed restrictions and how that impacts the zoning changes. I don't know that it does, but I think that's one of the questions.
Cannot enforce deed restrictions. And I don't know if, Brian, you want to elaborate more on that?
No, it's come up in previous meetings, and the whole deed restrictions and covenants is a civil law matter, basically the city has no authority to enforce those. Now, whether or not the city would be violating them by rezoning, that's another legal question. Well, all right, come on up, Brian.
Yeah. So, no, as you said, and for folks, they're two very separate things. And so we often have areas where there are conflicts between what the zoning will allow and what the deed restrictions will allow. And so in order to do a particular use on a property, you have to have the zoning from the city that allows it. Otherwise, the city comes out and shuts you down. If the deed restrictions do not allow it, then those folks, typically it's the other property owners under those deed restrictions, have the ability to take civil action to prevent it. So effectively, and this would be more to the applicant, really needs to make sure that the deed restrictions don't preclude him from doing what he wants to do, because if that's the case, there's not a whole lot of point of going through the city zoning process, because likely if the other property owners have the ability to enforce it, they would avail themselves and do that as well. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. No, thank you. That was the only question I had regarding that. As I read through the letters and listened to the residents, I do share, I think, a similar concern with regard to the flooding. That's a really big deal, and I know we've had conversations about that in the past. So the last thing is the traffic flow in and out of that community, with there being only one light there on Antler, and I think the intrusive nature of people coming in and out of there, if that were turned into general business. Heard your concern, and I certainly understand that. But thank you for an amazing presentation, and thank you all for taking the time to come out tonight. I can see that this community is a very, very special place, and I'm not sure how many more of those we have in this country anymore, but it's definitely one. So thank you. Thanks for your time.
Anyone else?
Sir.
Hey, John.
First, I want to know who's watching the neighborhood, because everyone's here. Hey, I just, I'm like, wow, everyone is here. No, I want to reiterate what my colleague said. Thank you for coming out. This is why we have a republic, because you get a voice. And that's why we sit on this committee, because we want to hear the voice. And so your voices are heard loud and clear. And so I can't wait to cast my vote.
As I said, I've lived here not as long as some of you, but long enough to see a lot of change in Schertz. And I honestly think the reason there's nothing on that property today is the problem that several of you pointed out. It's all that water and where it collects. Again, somebody that wanted to build in that area, Schertz is pretty particular about building in flood zones, so there would be probably quite a bit of work that would have to be done. So let me just say that I have a couple of big concerns with this zoning request. Number one is I agree with several other people that general business is not appropriate zoning for this area. That just opens it up to too many things that I would consider inappropriate for that particular location. Whether or not neighborhood services or office professional is appropriate, that's another discussion, because whatever it was to go there, other than somebody's house, as we've all talked about and know, the only access is off Fawn Drive. Fawn Drive is not built for, nor can it accommodate traffic in and out of a business. I've seen, it's really nice that they put the light in at Antler, other than it impedes my progress down 3009, but, well, if you've never noticed, I come down Savannah and I make a left turn on 3009 to go north, and the lights are timed that just about, just about time they turn the light green for Savannah and you make the turn, the light at Antler is turning red to let you folks out. But again, I've seen what somebody pointed out, that typically there's 2, 3, 4 cars sitting there waiting to get out of that intersection, and certainly just that lower section of Fawn where the traffic would have to come and go is not designed for it. It's even worse then, because I agree, people are going to want to use the light at Antler, and that's going to force them up Fawn and across Deer Run and down Antler. And, as you well know, it's just not designed for that. So those are my big concerns. That number one, general business isn't appropriate, and number two, access of off Fawn Drive is just not, in my mind, is not feasible or practical. So, anyone else? Planning, you have anything else?
No, sir.
No? All right, so just to reiterate, we are making a recommendation to City Council. And to let you folks know, so what that means is sometime in the future, if you watch this item will be on the City Council agenda, and you'll have the opportunity to, once again, you can come and fill up their seats and say the same. Now, most of the council members, this is being videotaped. Let's see, I want to say videotaped. I'm not, okay. But this is being recorded. And most, if not all, the city council members will watch this video before that meeting. So they'll have heard what you've said, they'll hear what we've said. But again, that will be a public hearing, and you will have another opportunity to express your concerns. So with that said, I'm looking for a motion for a recommendation to City Council. We can recommend approval, we can recommend denial, we can recommend approval with conditions. We can also, if you think it's appropriate, we've done it before, we can recommend a different zoning classification. So if someone would like to make a motion.
Okay, I guess it's on me. I'd like to make a recommendation for denial of a zone change on PLZ C20230186.
Okay, I have a recommendation a motion to recommend denial from Commissioner Goldick. Do I have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Carbone? All right, I have a motion and a second to recommend denial of PLZC 2023-0186 to City Council. Any further questions, discussion, comments? Okay, again, I need a voice vote, if you will, please.
Aye.
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 Aye. All right, that's 7 in favor, none opposed, and the motion that passed, just to be clear, is to recommend denial. So an aye vote was to recommend denial. Now, I'm going to tell you, this is probably not the last time we're going to see this. That empty property, it looks primo. I mean, it's right there with 3009 frontage. And, you know, if TxDOT would give somebody a curb cut, things might change a little bit. But again, we only made a recommendation, the final decision up to city council. So if you would, watch for that to come up on their agenda and come talk to them. Now, no, sir, I'm sorry, we're done. But again, staff is here. In fact, yeah, Mr. James is signaling they'll be out in the lobby, okay? Oh, they're gonna go outside while we finish up our business. So if you have any questions or comments and you want to talk to staff, they'll be out front, okay? Thank you all. All right. Oh, no, it'll be quick. It'll be quick. All right, real quick, Judy. Yeah, real quick. We're gonna take just a short recess while the crowd disperses, and we'll be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, please, if you wouldn't mind, take your discussion, and we'll move on here. Thank you. All right, item number 6, workshop and discussion. A workshop discussion and possible action regarding the Planning and Zoning Commission bylaws. Sam?
Evening, Commissioners. Okay, so we have 2 proposed changes tonight to the bylaws. The first one is around abstention votes. So at the October 25th P&Z meeting, a discussion was held in relation to the P&Z bylaws. The majority of the discussion was based on bylaw language. When a commission member has no legal obligation to abstain from voting, the commission member is prohibited from casting a vote of abstention.
Hang on just a second. Hang on just a second, Sam. Sir, if you would please take that discussion out in the lobby, please. Thank you. All right, try it again.
Okay, so staff has reviewed council rules, and we have aligned, what we're proposing is aligning them with the planning and zoning bylaws. The language that we're proposing you see here in green. So when a commissioner has no legal obligation to abstain from voting, then an abstention vote shall be recorded in the minutes as an abstention and shall procedurally be treated as a no vote. That's proposed change number 1. Proposed change number 2 is in relation to meeting dates. So this all stems from the House Bill 3699 and the fact that Ordinance 23S29, which was approved on December 5th, gives the city staff administrative approval over plats. So essentially the necessity for 2 meetings per month comes into question. Staff is recommending the bylaws be modified to reduce to 1 meeting per month. So there are still items that the Planning and Zoning Commission will have meetings for. They will make recommendations for amendments to the comprehensive land use plan, zone change requests, specific use permits, UDC amendments, and development agreements in accordance with the LGC and UDC. They also have approval authority for plats, site plans, and master plans if they're forwarded from staff, and the Planning and Zoning Commission will still have approval authority for waivers and appeals as well. So in reviewing the previous years, 2021, 2, 3, the P&Z agendas between 7 and 10 meetings each year have either been canceled or just had plats on them. So there's typically 22 scheduled meetings per year, and so in actuality we have about 12 to 15. So with the reductions of items to be heard by the P&Z, there will ultimately be less items to act on. So we don't think that there's a necessity to have 2 meetings per month. So what staff is recommending is that we change the bylaws. The meetings shall be generally held on the first Wednesday of the month. And we do this, we have chosen this 1 meeting a month. It is consistent with surrounding communities, Cibolo, New Braunfels, Seguin, Selma, Universal City. And the first Wednesday per month was actually chosen because the City Council recently adopted new dates as well, where they meet on the 2nd and 4th Wednesday. And we do this because it's the scheduling of, say, zoning matters or specific use permits. Basically what the situation is going to occur is, say, in January on the first Wednesday, a recommendation will be made by the Planning and Zoning Commission. And the way that public hearing notices and state laws are, that means that the first hearing will be on the first meeting in February for City Council, and the second reading will be in the second meeting for City Council. So essentially, Planning and Zoning will hear a matter on January, and City Council will decide in February. So it's a very easy thing, provide us better customer service to the applicants. It's really easy to make a nice, concise calendar about submittal dates and requirements. It just kind of works out for everybody in terms of scheduling. So by having 1 planning and zoning meeting a month, staff can create a calendar. It will assist the applicant, and staff feels that this is an added benefit to the applicants, and will add transparency when items will be heard before the Commission and City Council. So these are staff's recommendations to the bylaws. First one is about the abstention vote, and based on the items I laid out before you, we think that the first Wednesday of the month would be, and only having 1 per month would be our recommendation for the bylaws as well. Are there any questions and comments?
All right, thank you, Sam. Commissioners? Oh, I need you to speak into the microphone.
I was just thinking in my head holidays, and July 4th usually falls in that first week. So like in the event something like that happens, does it get pushed to the 2nd?
Yes, and
or
yeah, the master calendar is usually done all 12 months in advance, so that is usually factored in. So yes, it would be most likely the week after. Right. Kind of like how we have around the holidays, around November and December, we have kind of odd times that we do meetings, but that is factored in.
When would this start?
This will be in effect January.
If we see that we're having too many items on the agenda, do you see that changing in the future?
I do, and we could always revisit the bylaws.
Okay.
Yeah, and we could also hold special meetings.
And hopefully everybody will show up.
Yeah.
So. I'm sorry, I had to throw it. I couldn't resist.
Shots fired, man down.
All right.
Did you say that council's meeting on Wednesday now?
No. So the council, they do second and fourth Tuesday. Sorry if I misspoke. Yeah. Sorry about that. I don't know.
And is the calendar published, or it will be published?
So the calendar has been approved.
Okay.
Yeah.
With the new date?
Yes.
Yes.
What we did, because we didn't hold a special meeting, Mr. James, because they were trying, the whole intent was to be able to publish that master calendar and not have to revise it. So what he did is he, based on what he thought the way we were going to go, he went ahead and presented it to City Council with that caveat that we had not yet approved it. And to answer Judy's question, the 4th is on Thursday in 2024. So, okay. Anybody else? I have a couple of questions.
I was going to say, if you would
Yeah.
like, we could open this up and show you the calendar. So you can just have it made copy.
Well, my number one's a comment, Sam. I'm going to keep saying it. I don't care what the other cities are doing. This is the Schertz Planning and Zoning Commission. I don't really care what they're, all right? But why May 8th? I understand delaying the January meeting, although even then, it's the 3rd of January, but why did we move the May meeting?
So I don't have an explanation for that. There is an Animal Services Advisory Committee that day. That could have potentially played into it. I don't know if you're...
I do feel, and I'm not 100% certain, but if I recall, as a consistency, we typically do a week as a full week, not a partial week. So the first week would be the first full week of the month, not a half one month, half another. And I believe that's the way it's always been on all the calendars.
Okay, but that's not what the change says first Wednesday.
Huh?
The first full...
First full week. So that Monday is part April and part May.
No.
So the next full week.
No.
I believe that's how the calendars have been done in the past. You will see there's another one that did fall on a holiday that got adjusted a little bit towards the end of the year as well.
Leave that up there, Sam, because now I've got to think about it now. To me, the first Wednesday is the first Wednesday, even if that's the first of the month. That's the first Wednesday of the month, and that's when the meeting should be. Not this first full week stuff, okay? I mean, I saw this and I said, yippee, now my vacation calendar is open wild up. Well, now, I don't know. What do the rest of you think?
Into October on this calendar either. Because you have,
Typically, the last 3 months of the year, we have to make adjustments. Even on, you'll see on the calendar, master calendar each year, in November, we typically have one meeting. In December, we
Right.
typically have one meeting to make all the calendars work. And I believe Emily came to me and we talked about October specifically, and when the APA conference was. And so when the APA conference was when the meeting was intended to be on that Wednesday, when we typically leave on a Wednesday, and then have the conference on Thursday and Friday. So it was a choice to either move it before or after the APA conference.
I don't care to have a meeting on the 3rd of July.
Well,
I don't know how everybody else feels about it, but
Let me look here.
10 July would be nice.
I concur. I think
This calendar's been adopted by city council, so we'll have to get with the city secretary's office and see what needs to happen. I mean, the thing is we certainly can cancel that meeting and reschedule or have a special meeting if that's important to you guys. In the past, we've always just worked with the city secretary and the city manager's office to do the second and the fourth week or the first and the third week, and whatever it comes out, it comes out. And so this was the idea of, you had a calendar and now you have 3 weeks to plan your vacation because you have the days in advance.
Well, looking at the calendar, the only time it's not the first Wednesday is that May meeting, because, well, in the January, but I kind of understood that because we were kind of still in that holiday schedule. But if I'm correct, looking at the master calendar, those are the only 2 times where it's not the actual first Wednesday. So I could I'd get over it. You know me, grumble.
Well, we do appreciate it, and if July does need to be changed, it doesn't necessarily have to be changed on the calendar. We can certainly cancel and have a special meeting or make a change.
And I guess we can, rather than do that now, we could wait until we get closer, like May or June or something. I mean, it might not even be here, who knows, so.
I think it'll determine if we have plenty of items on the calendar as well, or on the agenda as well. If we don't have many things on the agenda, then there might not even be a meeting.
Yeah. Roderick, you look like you want to say something.
I was just going to mention that, with the 4th of July being such a family-centric holiday, having it on the 10th might.
Well, we only need 4 of us to show up.
Oh.
So.
We're good.
And it's something that we can put in the bank for next year as we start going through the calendars again. If it falls very close to a holiday, then we can make adjustments.
Oh, I don't know, can we take comments from yes?
Sure.
What you got, Patrick?
Workshop.
I think month would be much easier to do, but I agree with everybody that I don't want to meet on the 3rd of July.
Well, let's, okay. So other than July, is everybody okay with what we're seeing?
I say yes, and I think that publishing it a year in advance certainly helps for planning purposes, and I appreciate that, so.
And then how would, the master calendar is not new, it's always been out there. And, but what I was going to say is, how would everybody feel about just leaving it the way it is for now, and we'll address June down the road? Would that work for everybody? I'm sorry, July.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, how about the other, that abstention vote is, I sort of started that debate here, I don't know, 2 or 3 months ago, because there was some conflict between, we had different versions of the bylaws. One said you couldn't abstain unless you had a valid legal duty to abstain. You had to vote yea or nay. City council, is this city council I don't know, it's several years ago now, they changed, because I think Mayor Carpenter was still in office when they did that one. But that's their procedure, is that an abstention is considered a no vote, correct? This is the same wording?
Yep.
So is everybody okay with that? And again, usually the only place this comes up is when we're looking at the minutes and you weren't at that meeting, so you don't feel qualified, I guess is not the right word, but you don't feel right voting to approve those minutes when you weren't here. That's typically when I've seen abstentions here. So, any other discussion? This is on the agenda for possible action. So, we've got some options here. We can do nothing. We can recommend approval of these changes and let them. They would then go to council for final approval. Correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because the bylaws are approved by them. That's correct. So would anybody like to make or Roderick, you got something?
Yeah. No, I just make a motion that we approve the staff recommendations to the changes.
I second.
All right, I have a
Aye.
motion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think John wants to go home. I have a motion to approve. I have a motion and a second to recommend approval of these changes as submitted by staff. Any further discussion? If not, I'll call for the vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. 7. 7 ayes, none opposed. That motion passes. All right, item number 7, requests and announcements. Request by commissioners to place items on a future P&Z agenda. Anybody have anything? All right, announcements by commissioners. Anybody?
I do. This is my last night on the commission, so I appreciate all you guys' input in that stuff, but it's time for me to move on.
Well, thank you for your service, Gordon, and you'll be missed, really. Anybody else have any announcements? I thought I had one, but if it...
Is there a warranty on this voting system?
All right, item C, announcements by city staff. You have anything, Sam? Nothing. Item 8, information available in the P&Z packet. I didn't even look at it this month, but it's there. All righty, item number 9. It is now 8:07 p.m. and this meeting is adjourned. No.